stream.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, you're good to go.
Okay, welcome everyone to this briefing of the Environment and Transportation Committee. I'm the chair, Kumar Barve. I'm joined by my vice chairman, Dana Stein, and many members of our committee. We're also joined by the leadership of the MDTA and the E-ZPass system. And let me begin by saying that this briefing is happening to a very great extent because of complaints and anger on the part of many of our constituents. I'm not going to catalog them all here. I'm sure that some questioning is going to bring out many of these issues, but I suppose suffice it to say that there are many things that the state government does that voters and constituents and the populace don't care about, but this is not one of those things. This is a function of local government, of state government, that is vital to the proper functioning of our economy. I personally have many close friends and constituents who are very interested in seeing what becomes of all of this. And so let me begin by welcoming Jim Ports. I believe you're the first on the list. Am I right, Trish? I'm neglected to print out the agenda.
I think Jim is just going to give you a statement and go through the slideshow, and everybody's there for the rest of the MDTA are there for questions.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman Barbe and members of the House Environmental and Transportation Committee. For the record, my name is Jim Ports. I'm Executive Director of the MDTA, and I'm also joined today by MDTA's Chief Operating Officer, Will Pines, as well as MDTA's Chief Financial Officer, Deb Sharpless. So first of all, I want to thank you for inviting us here today to update the committee on our operations as well as our recent transition to Drive Easy MD. This year, believe it or not, Mr. Chairman, marks the 50th anniversary of MDTA. It was established in 1971 by this body, the Maryland General Assembly, to finance, construct, operate, preserve, secure, and improve the state's tolling facilities. I do, however, want to mention that the MDTA is unique from other Maryland transportation agencies in that we are solely financed by toll revenue. We are self-sufficient, non-budgeted state agency that receives, as you know, no money from the state's general fund or the Transportation Trust Fund, which we usually refer to as the TTF. So the MDTA reinvests its revenue in operation and maintenance of our toll facilities. In addition to operating the 8 toll facilities, we also own 2 travel plazas along I-95 that were redeveloped and operated privately through a successful public-private partnership. Another unique aspect of the MDTA is our trust agreement. The MDTA's trust agreement is a contract with our bondholders, and it outlines how our funds may be used to operate our 8 toll facilities. To the public, E-ZPass and now the new pay-by-plate and video tolling are probably the most identifiable aspects of MDTA's operations, quite frankly, as you mentioned. And the issues that constituents probably contact your office the most about. So, I want to focus my remarks on where we are today with all electronic tolling, or what some people refer to as cashless tolling, and our transition to Drive Easy MD and the mailing of notices of toll due. So we use that term a lot, notices of toll due, but what we usually refer to it is NOTD. So you may hear me use that acronym. If I ever do use that acronym, that's what I mean. And that's for our video tolls. Next slide. I'd like to start with electronic tolling, or what we call AET. The transition that MDTA cash toll facilities had with all electronic tolling has been a strategic goal of MDTA for many decades. We were contacted by many constituents over the years as to why they couldn't go at highway speeds, sort of like Delaware and other states. And so this has been a goal of ours for some time. You may recall that when we did the ICC, the Intercounty Connector, we did exactly that. We went all AET. And as we progressed, we went and did the Key Bridge as well as the Hayden Bridges in the fall of 2019 to start accomplishing that long-term goal. So beginning in March 2020, I don't have to tell you what happened then, COVID-19 hit us. It was a state of emergency, as you all recall, and the MDTA implemented several temporary measures, and many of them were to assist our customers during the pandemic. We initiated statewide all electronic tolling overnight at the flip of a switch at all of our remaining 5 toll facilities. And of course, the only way to charge people was at the video toll. However, we lowered the toll rate to the former cash rate, since many people paid cash. We thought that was a much more fair thing to do, and so we did that immediately. And then, of course, we also gave grace periods for the Easy Pass discount plan because many of those kind of expire if you don't use them. If you don't use them, you lose them. And we were not sure, since many people were losing their jobs or cutting back in hours, we were not sure who was impacted or not. So we gave grace periods for all of our commuters. In August of 2020, Governor Hogan announced that all electronic tolling will remain permanent throughout Maryland. All electronic toll collection is expanding in numerous states and has obviously many benefits. It reduces congestion. It's less idling time, which not only allows for better fuel efficiency, but also reduces emissions. It also increases driver safety by reducing crashes. We had a lot of rear-end crashes at our toll facilities, and it also provides a safer work environment for employees. So construction on the highway speed all electronic tolling with overhead gantries and the removal of existing toll plazas is underway at the JFK Memorial Highway, the Nice Middleton Bridge, and coming soon, the Fort McHenry Tunnel. A study is also underway for the I-895 Baltimore Harbor Tunnel Toll Plaza and interchange improvements, which will allow MDTA to bring highway speed all electronic tolling to the Harbor Tunnel. So beginning March 2020, in response to COVID-19 state emergency, we paused the mailing of NOTDs. This is probably the biggest thing you get calls on. We did that to provide some financial relief and to protect our customers and employees during the pandemic. Now, every one of you, I think, had the same opinion as us. We thought it was going to be a 6 to 8, maybe a 10-week pandemic. Well, we were all wrong. And it lasted, well, it's still lasting actually. So, you know, about a year and a half or even more. And so when you're in those situations and you're trying to make decisions that haven't been made for 100 years, you're going to make some right decisions and what would later turn out to be some decisions that have larger impacts. And this is one of those. The MDTA's decision to pause mailing of the NOTDs aligned with other COVID-19 financial relief programs like deferred rent, deferred mortgages, deferred car payments. You may recall the governor and other elected officials asking the private sector to pause these payments for employees while they lost their jobs or lost hours. And I mean, we're government. We should be taking the lead if we're asking the private sector to do that. So we did just that in pausing the NOTDs. So during this time frame, March 2020 through October 2020, video toll mailings were paused, and as a result, we accrued a backlog, which we are still resolving today. And I will get into that a little later because I'm sure you're going to have questions on that. But let me further turn to our transition to Drive EasyMD and how our current toll operations work. Simply put, our previous toll system, which had been in place since 2008, needed to be modernized to accommodate technological advances to meet the needs of our customer base. Now, I'm sure you would all agree that there were probably a few IT changes in over the 15-year time period that I'm talking about. So we put out a new RFP, and these are the companies that won it. The new tolling system went live on April 29th, 2021. And as with any new technology, especially in the instance of transitioning from a very old, outdated system, and what we usually refer to as a legacy system, during the pandemic, we did expect to encounter some technical software issues. And I was very frank with people on that. And we knew that was going to occur when we launched. We were in daily contact with our developers to work through the needed adjustment to both hardware and software issues. The April launch of Drive EasyMD included a new website, web chat feature, customer call center with expanded hours, text notifications, and more. And of course, customers can utilize the website to learn all about tolling in Maryland, pay their tolls with EasyPass, video tolling, or our newest payment method called Pay by Plate. And we're aware that some customers have had issues navigating or accessing the content on the website. Since launching this system, we've been using customer feedback in our own quality process to remedy some of the issues and improve the website functionality. Based on the customer feedback, we are continuously improving our frequently asked questions. We have streamlined contact options to improve our ability to provide quick and accurate assistance. We added tutorials, tutorial videos for common information that people were struggling with. We made logo and design requirement improvements and even implemented changes on both the customer and the account specialist interfaces to ease the navigation of the site as a whole. Saying that, we continue to look at advancements. When it comes to paying tolls, customers had 3 options. We like to call it good, better, best. It's an analogy that we use to describe the payment options. And quite frankly, I hope that you all can help us with this, because our goal is to get people away from video tolling and into the video toll, which we call good, because you get to go at highway speeds, and get them into the better, which is the pay by plate option, which means you don't have a transponder, but you do put your plate and your credit card online with us, and then we kind of hit your credit card or debit your credit card, if you will, in a sense, to make payment. Or what we refer to as the best, and that's the Easy Pass. And I can't stress enough about the Easy Pass, because you can receive the lowest toll rates up to 77%. But I also want to say that you have 19 other states that you can utilize with the Easy Pass. I also want to mention that the pay by plate option will only work in Maryland. It will not work in other states because other states haven't moved to that type of system. So Easy Pass is literally the most widely used form of payment at the Mdta toll facilities. As I mentioned, 19 other states have it. It's the best option in terms of cost and convenience for customers. And I would say we have, and it shifts obviously depending on holidays and all this stuff and travel from in-state and out-of-state. But I would say that approximately any given time, about 70% of our people are Easy Pass users. And of course, the other 30% will be pay by plate, which is actually a little less than 1% now, and video customers. Since 2018, The Easy Pass Maryland transponders are free, and there is no $1.50 monthly maintenance fee. That has been eliminated for Maryland addresses and for some out-of-state drivers who use our toll roads more than 3 times monthly. And Easy Pass accounts can be funded by credit, debit card, cash, or check. Next slide. So as you'll see here, we offer several discount Easy Pass Maryland Maryland plans specific to commuters and commercial vehicle industry. Accounts must be replenished when funds become low, as a negative balance becomes a video toll. So we offer replenishment option for Easy Pass accounts. The auto replenishment amount is calculated automatically by the system for the average use every 30 days. So if you use it a lot, it'll go up. If you don't use it as much, it'll go down. That's how it works. So it increases or decreases based on the amount that you use the system. Now, the next few slides break down our current toll rates. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because I know your time is valuable, but I just want to say that you'll see that there are differing toll rates. The commuter plan, you'll see the Easy Pass rate as opposed to pay-by-plate rate. And yeah, just back up the slide a little bit to the rates. I want them to be able to see. So you'll see the commuter plans, you'll see the Easy Pass, the Maryland Easy Pass rates, the pay-by-plate rates, and of course the out-of-state Easy Pass rates. So the pay-by-plate rate, I just want to make clear, is literally the old cash rate, if you ever need to refer to it in any way. So you can look these up online if you'd like. So if there's any facility that piques your interest, or if you have constituent concerns about any of these, you can certainly go to the website and look at these specific toll facility and help out your constituents. So often when we hear from our customers, it's because they believe they've been mischarged. However, their inquiries often have nothing to do with the actual toll system errors. And let me explain that. We've been working with our communications team to increase our helpful hints messaging to help educate customers. One of the most important helpful hints is to remind customers to properly mount their Easy Pass transponders. If it is not properly mounted, it may not trigger the device for payment. For example, many customers do not properly mount their Easy Pass transponders or do not have their transponder in the vehicle at the time of travel. We hear this complaint all the time. We had a recent Fox News inquiry that asked us about it, and the customer swore that they properly mounted their Easy Pass, or that their Easy Pass was mounted. When we showed him the pictures of his windshield, we said, "Can you show us where the Easy Pass is, because we cannot see it on your windshield?" And he says, "I have it mounted above my visor." Well, it's mounted, but it's not properly mounted, and it will never pick up because of the roof of the vehicle will not allow the transponder to talk to the gantries. But he swore that we were overcharging him, and that's not the case. And we have many, many, many other cases I can explain. So when that occurs, that results in what we call an image toll, or what we really refer to as an I toll, which carries a higher rate than the regular Easy Pass rate because we have to do a lot more work to get those payments. So what we do is we take a video of the vehicle because the transponder did not work. We have to go to the MVA, look it up. We also, before we actually do that, before we do that, we actually look to see if they have an Easy Pass account. If they have an Easy Pass account, we give them the I toll rate because of all the extra person power that we had to use to match this up. And that's why I say if you properly mount it, that's the best and most efficient way to use the EasyPass. iTolls are not a mischarge, but customers often will contact us, like the issue I just spoke about, asking why the toll rate is not the Maryland EasyPass rate. So we try to work with our customers and we try to explain to them to properly mount it. If they need, we'll call them the stickies. We're more than happy to mail those out to them. In addition, customers subscribing to discount plans may be charged the full fare for transactions if they're not properly installed. When this happens, we work with the customers to explain why they received the iToll and educate them on how to prevent them. The next slide gives important information on what customers should do if the transponder is lost or stolen, or if the vehicle, quite frankly, is towed. And so I will say this, we have had several EasyPasses stolen, especially at businesses with large vehicles. If they don't keep them locked up, we encourage people to lock their EasyPass up. If you have a convertible, you might want to be careful with that. I'll just say that if anybody has a convertible in the audience, but you might want to throw that in the trunk or in a locked glove compartment. Next slide. So now I'd like to explain how video tolls and notices of toll due, or NOTDs, are processed by the MDTA. The video toll transaction occurs when a vehicle goes through a Maryland toll facility without paying the toll and does not have an EasyPass or pay-by-plate account. It is simply another form of payment where a bill or NOTD is sent to the motorist after they have traveled on a Maryland toll road without paying by pay-by-plate or EasyPass. The video toll rates are our highest rates of our three payment options due to the time and effort that it takes us to process them. However, with our new tolling system, customers, as I mentioned previously, can receive discounts, and some discounts up to 15% or up to $5 if they pay their video tolls online or in person before we mail the NOTD. So it's another option, another discount option, I should say, for the customer. If they have insufficient funds on an EasyPass account or an expired credit card, which is probably one of the top things that we see, complaints that we see, an unregistered vehicle license plate, which is another top 10, or an improperly mounted transponder, it can also result in a video toll. When the customers do not follow the terms and conditions of use, we sometimes hear complaints that they were not billed correctly. The customer have 45 days from the date of the notice to pay the NOTD without penalty. NOTDs can be paid online, by mail, in person at one of our customer service centers, or by phone. And the MDTA is always committed to working with our customers. I would like to remind the committee that in March 2020, the MDTA board unanimously voted to reduce the civil penalty by half from $50 to $25. And for infrequent toll violators, we may reduce the toll due amount and or waive the $25 penalty if a customer agrees to pay their toll due amount on the spot and or sign up for pay-by-plate or EasyPass. Our goal is literally to get them into the most efficient, most effective way to use our toll facilities. The last few slides on our list show the customer service locations and hours. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is online, but these are some of the MDTA facilities. And then the next slide will show, as you know, MVA, Motor Vehicle Administration, has adopted a one-stop shop monitor, and you know, they're using TSA, they're doing DNR, and they're allowing us to be in some of their facilities also. So it's been a great working relationship with MVA. With that, I want to again thank the committee for giving us the opportunity to brief the committee on the EasyPass and video toll programs. The MDTA, as I mentioned, our goal is to deliver superior customer service. You know, we average in excess of 150 million transactions per year. And I will say, and I think you'd see it in some of our other correspondence, we're very proud of our low error rate. The overall accuracy rate exceeds 99.8. And I'd also like to ask the committee to consider sharing with your constituents the driveeasymd.com web address, and also mention that we have the FAQs with videos that I believe are particularly a great resource on all things tolling in Maryland. And we hope that this information assists you in answering some of your constituent questions, because as you know, I used to be one of you, and I absolutely understand the constituent issues. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that report. I know that I have a number of questions, but I'm going to wait for the members of my committee to express their questions and concerns. We will start with Delegate Sheila Ruth, followed by David Frazier-Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ports, for the presentation and for the rest of the MDTA team. I understand that you had a backlog of these notices because you didn't mail them out for 6 months during the pandemic. But beyond the issue of the backlog, is there a standard for when the notice of toll due is sent out after the violation? Because I'm hearing from people that there's real inconsistency about when they receive the notice, that it might be weeks or even months.
Yes, good question. We get that question often. So let me explain. So
Okay.
As you mentioned, during COVID, we did pause them. And you know, again, you have a 100-year pandemic, you're trying to make decisions. This one ended up, I don't want to say backfiring on us, but it did cause us a huge backlog. Now, our vendors, they would be more than happy to send out all of the notices to hold dues at one time. However, I think your constituents you'd really hear from them on that one, because some of them would be receiving very large bills. So to help ease the pain, if you will, we put together a strategy where we mail out 1 week's worth of current tolls and 1 week's worth of backlogs, so that we don't hit the customer's account too hard and we kind of ease that payment along. I liken it to, I know a lot of constituents complain about, because some people like to pay all their bills at the same time, but many constituents can't. So we have to err on the side of people that can, because we can't produce software to fit everybody's schedule that they'd like to pay. So we err on the side of slowing it down. That means the money comes to us slower, but that's okay, because we want to do what's best for the customer. I liken it to when furniture companies, for example, say, buy now and interest-free, and you won't have to make any payments for a year. And people rush out and buy those furniture, those pieces of furniture, because they don't have to pay for a year and no interest. That's actually what we're doing. No payments for almost a year, and no interest, no civil penalties. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's an advantage that all the customers like, because some customers don't like it. But we are trying to do that for that reason, to ease the pain for a lot of our customers who are unable to pay those big payments all at once.
Thank you. So once you work through the backlog from the pandemic, will the notices be mailed out right away, or is there a certain period of time after?
Yes. So another great question. So the way we mail them out, it's about a two week lag. Okay. Obviously, they're not mailed out exactly at the same time because ICC, for example, I don't know where you live, but if you were to use the ICC, some people use 3 gantries, some people use 15. And so those trips have to be put together. So the time it takes to put together, it's about a 2-week lag. So pretty much on what we would call on time would be about a 2-week lag.
Okay, thank you. And so for people who have an EasyPass account, but it's converted to a video toll because they don't have an expired credit card or whatever, is the notice sent out for those also?
Yes, it is. So we try to contact our customers by email. If they provided their email, we can't make them, obviously. But otherwise, we put it on their account, and we obviously ask people always to check their account, just like you would your bank account, your credit card account, any other account that you may have, and it's on their bill. And what we're going to implement, because we see a lot of eye tolls. Some people get a new car, they forget to get new stickies, and they don't mount it, and that becomes a problem. Or they don't put the new car's tags on their account. That becomes a problem. So as we see people who are inquiring a lot of eye tolls, the image tolls, then we're going to start sending notices out to them so they can properly mount it and give that information so that they can get the best discount possible in Maryland.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the following delegates in this order: David Frazier Hidalgo, Jay Jacobs, Vaughn Stewart, Ann Healy, Brooke Learman. Let's go to DFH.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for being here and reviewing this with us. I have a few questions. One, before it slips my mind, on that last piece about eye tolls. So are you saying, let's say, for example, you have an EasyPass, the battery's dead or doesn't work, and every time you drive through one of the turns, what ends up happening?
So you would get an eye toll.
Okay.
We do hear that people's transponders batteries went dead, but I'll be honest with you, it's very rare that occurs because we just mailed out a whole slew of them and replaced a lot of the old transponders with new transponders. But if you bring it to a customer service center and it is dead, we will reimburse you.
Reimburse you for what?
Well, we'll reimburse you for the eye tolls, and we'll give you the EasyPass toll, and of course we'll give you a new transponder for free.
Okay, so I'd like if you could take some notes and dig in on that, because I know I personally have experienced the exact opposite, where I had an EasyPass and for whatever reason it stopped working. And when I called up to find out why I was getting these tolls from New York and New Jersey, I found out that my EasyPass wasn't working. But the state of Maryland had been hitting me and charging me, I guess, an eye toll rate. So nobody from EasyPass or from the state reached out to me. I had to reach out to them and ask them why I was getting these exorbitant fees from New York and New Jersey when I was taking road trips. So if you could dig in on that, because that's not my experience. It's just not. It's not my experience.
So what I said was, and we haven't implemented that yet, where we're looking at the eye tolls, or let me say the heavy user eye tolls.
Right.
That program has not been implemented yet. But what I'm saying is, we recognize that as a problem now, and we're going to be putting that policy in place.
Great. Okay.
So I don't want to. I didn't. If I misspoke, I misspoke.
No, you probably didn't.
But I just wanted to be clear that your experience. So here's how it works. You don't know what you don't know. I've been here just over 2 years now. Okay. No one's looked into that eye toll issue, but when I found out the number of people that have eye tolls, I said, we need to fix this. And so we're trying to put a policy in place, working with our vendors. But again, we're in transition, so there's only so many fixes they can do at a time. That if we see a customer with a lot of eye tolls, then we're going to notify them. So that it hasn't gone in place yet, but we are looking to do that.
Okay.
Because of customer feedback. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you, because I think that's important. Secondly, if for whatever reason somebody doesn't receive their toll in the mail, so they don't know, they just don't receive their toll in the mail. I guess that it's kind of a two-part question for that. One is, if it gets sent off to collections, do you have the ability to bring it back from collections if you find out later that they moved, or for whatever reason they never received anything in the mail, or how does that work?
So let me do part two first, the collections. So you do know that we had a law in place that was passed probably about 4 years ago or so that had a sunset on it and allowed us to claw that back.
Right.
That sunset ended. There were some bills in last year to extend that sunset. However, those bills got moved into the P3 bill, which did not pass. And so it sunsetted. So we have a much bigger challenge right now in clawing that back. But we do believe that it absolutely benefited the customer to be able to claw that back. Right now, I think we can still do it if we go through the secretary for, like, I guess, extreme circumstances, but not on a regular basis like we were with the bill in place.
So would a freestanding independent bill to do just that be helpful? Is that what would be helpful?
It was helpful to the customer for sure.
Okay, but it would be
Without a
helpful
doubt.
to you to be helpful to the customer.
Yeah. Well, it helps us help the customer. Yes, exactly. And then part one, the notices not being received.
Right.
So we hear that a lot. As you know, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. There's a state law that says if you move, you must file your new address with the MVA. When we do our notice of toll due, the only way that we can find you is to go through the MVA records. And and that's by law, by the way. So we go to the MVA, and if you have not updated your address and you have not worked with the Postal Service to have your mail forwarded, or you go past the point where your mail gets forwarded, I think it's 1 year, you're not going to receive it. That's not because we sent it to the wrong place. It's because the customer did not uphold their end of the bargain with the contract that they signed. The other thing that we recognize, and this is a newer issue with the U.S. Postal Service, where people are getting their mail late.
That's the part I was getting to.
Okay.
In the middle of a pandemic, the post office isn't working properly, and all of a sudden you just don't even get a notice.
Look, I got my birthday card 2 months late. I get it, right? Christmas cards came way after Christmas. I understand. Everybody understands. When that occurs, the customers normally call us, and we work with that customer, and we do not. We waive all the civil penalties. We do not charge the customer for the U.S. Postal Service being late.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Jay Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Ports, good to see you today. We got to see you 4 times during the
CTP.
Representing 4 counties, so I got 4 shots at you.
Yeah, I know. And you took all of them.
Anyhow, I've got a couple of questions. One of them, you mentioned right kind of at the end of your presentation about the 150 million transactions and 99.8% accuracy. And, that's a pretty significant number. Unfortunately, we don't hear from all those lucky people. We must hear from the 0.2%. So how is that possible to make that number? I mean, to have that successful of a number? I mean, what do you got in quality assurance controls to make sure you give good pricing and stuff like that? I mean, that's a pretty significant number on 150 million.
No, you're right. You're right. These systems have to be built so that they're accurate. And the software programs have to work. Don't get me wrong. There are times, these are electronic devices, sometimes mechanical devices, depending on the toll. But, you know, they do break, things do go wrong. But for the most part, we have our KPIs set with the developer or the contractors that they must meet these standards, okay? And so we track it, we audit them, because if they don't meet these standards, then we look for liquidated damages from them, okay? So it's an incentive for them to get this right. And so we do have a very high standard for accuracy, and quite frankly, we did the analysis, we're a little above 99.8%. Now, I know you mentioned that you don't hear from those people. You don't. You're right. I would also give another statistic that the people who don't pay, and keep in mind that's a choice, right? They choose not to pay their tolls, is less than 3%. But those are the ones you hear from.
Yep. And I appreciate that. A couple of things. My next question, I guess, leading up to it, you know, and we haven't been talked about much, but one of the problems I think most of us have been experiencing is when people call with a problem, it's just long, takes forever to get a live person on the phone. You know, a couple of them said how long they were saying it was going to take, like the recording, I guess, was given like 90 minutes or whatever. I don't know. It was a long period of time. Now, in your defense, I got to say that when I called in a couple of cases into your office and got a hold of one of your staff members, that it was handled very quickly. And, you know, so it looked good. You know, I got to look good there for a few minutes anyway.
Well, that's because I don't want you beating up on me, but
No,
so we go real quickly.
But seriously, I think most of us probably hear the fact that when you call, you know, you're trying to get through to try and get something straight. It takes forever sometimes, and people, you know, they're a little edgy right now in this climate. I'll tell you, you're just another piece of the mosaic.
That's right. So let me say it this way. Look, I'm going to totally admit that 90 minutes might not have been the longest, okay? We do know that customers experience long wait times. There are, I would say, several contributing factors to that. I guess like the restaurant business, the school bus issue, call centers are experiencing the same thing that everybody else is with staffing shortages. When we kicked off this transition, our vendor had 160 agents working in the call center, more than enough to handle it. Now that being said, I will say that the backlog is one of our #1 calls. So if we did not have that backlog, we would not be experiencing the call volumes that we have today. But they had 160 agents. That 160 agents fell to 60 agents in August. I don't have to tell you, the unemployment money that was available was, I believe, a contributing factor. And plus, some people who thought they might want to work in a call center decided that is not their lifelong dream anymore. And our vendor, TransCore, has been actively recruiting staff and incentivizing and training new staff since that point. They're also launched an additional call center up in New Jersey for overflow and additional staffing. But unfortunately, you know, they lost 29 agents in September, And now they're actually what they have in place, because again, they continue to look for people. They have 77 agents in place today. They're trying to bring on an additional 35 representatives through a third-party call center provider. And so we recognize this problem, but again, it's a problem that's kind of occurring all over the nation at this time. We're not the only call center that has backups. I'm not using it as an excuse, but it is a reality that there's a lot of businesses out here now that cannot get people to come to work.
I appreciate that. A little follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chairman. What kind of delay is it now? Just like, is it like 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 20 minutes? I don't know. I haven't called.
Yeah, so it really depends on what day you call and when you call. Call on a Saturday, not so bad, probably closer to 30, 40 minutes. You call in prime time, probably Monday morning, and you're probably looking at over 90 minutes.
It's sort of like my cable provider then.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to admit, yes, as much as I hate it.
Yeah, no, it seems like a lot of them are slow. I mean, just have those delays now, but again, when I did call your office, I did get taken care of very quickly, and I do appreciate that. And your staff, they did a great job. But you forgot to mention one thing in your presentation. If you don't forget anything today, ladies and gentlemen, remember good, better, best.
You heard that a couple times, CTP,
I heard that
right?
4 times.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And you heard it a couple times today.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
next question goes to Delegate Vaughn Stewart, followed by Ann Healy, followed by Brooke Learman, followed by Jen Terraza. Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks so much for joining this afternoon. Again, we really all appreciate it. So, just looking back at the PowerPoint you sent on pages 10 and 11, you have basically about 5 different rates depending on, which bridge or road you're on and what sort of easy pass or not, or what state you're from. I can imagine if you're someone with only a few dollars in your bank account, which unfortunately a lot of Marylanders are going through, that the complexity of trying to figure out what you're going to be charged depending on what sort of device you either have or not can be pretty confusing. But I guess my question on that is, why is there a difference between in-state and out-of-state for Easy Pass? It seems to be only a $1 difference for only 2-axle vehicles. What is the rationale behind adding that one additional layer of complexity?
So one, we wanted to give Marylanders a little break and give them an extra discount. So let me explain it this way. You cannot charge different rates because of where you live. However, what we can do is say that the discount only applies to a Maryland Easy Pass account. So you could live in New York and have a Maryland Easy Pass and get the discount. But if you have a New York one, we're going to charge a regular fee. And quite frankly, some of it is the fact that, you can imagine if they're out of state, they're not our account, right? And so we have to go to the MVA to do the lookup, and that costs us time and money. So they don't get the Maryland discount. But if they had a Maryland Easy Pass, they would get the discount.
Do other states do that? Do they offer like a similar discount for their in-state accounts?
So yeah, I think there are a few states, but I don't off the top of my head know who they are, to be honest with you.
And then last thing, I know you mentioned that you can replenish your Easy Pass account with cash, right? You mentioned that. My question is, I guess for the video, the pay by plate, is there a cash option, or do you have to have a credit card? And of course, the reason I ask is because there's a huge percentage of Marylanders that don't have credit cards, that are unbanked or underbanked.
Right. Yeah. So good question. The pay by plate option is only for a credit card. Okay. However, you can actually have an Easy Pass, and this is what we try to stress with especially with unbanked. We do have the provision in place that if you're unbanked, you can come to our service center and give us cash or a check. I guess if you're unbanked, you wouldn't have a check, but we allow you to pay in person, like they would probably pay all their other bills, quite frankly. And what we try to do is many of those customers that you're talking about don't understand that if they had an Easy Pass, they would get a discount. It'd be even cheaper for them. So what we found over the years is that a lot of those customers that used to be paying cash at the toll booth, that's a $4 fee. If they had an Easy Pass, it would be a $3 fee. If they're a commuter, it'd be a $1.40 fee. So what we try to do is work with those unbanked customers and those people who have difficulty paying to try and get them into the best vehicle, not, well, that's a bad word, the best option. There you go. Thank you. The best option for them to get the biggest discount so that it relieves some of that burden for them.
So when you mentioned the service center, that they could pay cash at a service center at their own, is there just one, you just mean your main headquarters?
No. So what slide was that? Of course, I don't have the slides right in front of me, but I think it's around, was it 15, 16? Yeah, it's the second to last. So we have,
I see.
Yeah, it's on our website too. But you can look, and we have our facilities that are it's actually at most of our facilities, quite frankly, not the ICC or the ETLs, but at the legacy facilities where they can go and pay cash. There's 12 locations total.
Okay, but they couldn't. But that would be sort of after the fact. They couldn't pay cash to sign up for the pay-by-play, and they couldn't use cash to sign up initially for the Easy Pass, right?
No, they can. No, they can.
Okay, for
they
Easy
can
Pass,
do it with the they can do it with the Easy Pass, and that's the better option for them, quite frankly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
It's a cheaper option for them.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. No, good question.
Okay, Delegate Healy. Ann, you're muted.
Yeah, there I am. I'm fine now. Yeah, I just, Vaughn really went down the road that I'm interested in. I wanted to just follow up a little bit about the people who don't have bank accounts, don't have access to the internet, and need to do their business in the state in person. You have, it's nice that you have 12, and it's nice that you have some of the MVA offices open, but those are limited hours, and they're sometimes hard to get to. They're not easy to find sometimes, or that you're traveling, and it's great if you're traveling over one of these facilities and it's there and you're there at the right hour. But if you're in the middle of the night and you run out of money on your card, or on your Easy Pass, we talked about this when you were before the committee before, about the option of having the ability for people to go into a drugstore, a gas station, and buy, a prepaid Easy Pass that they can use for whatever amount of money that they have at the time. And when it runs out, they get another one, and they can just go to CVS, or they can go to their local gas station where they're getting gas anyway, and not have to, stick to these hours and try to make it easier for people. Have you been working on that?
Yes. So we do have the Easy Pass on the go that we offer. It's $25, and you don't even have to sign up. You can use it. Of course, it runs out after $25, and we encourage people to go online, or if as you mentioned, if they don't have the internet, they can certainly come to one of our facilities, and we can allow them to use one of our computers and sign up so that they can continue to do so. But we also, as you mentioned, the hours and the I guess I would say inconvenience, because there are only certain hours that people may be traveling. If they're traveling later hours, if they're going third shift or something, it may not be convenient. But we actually have 24/7 drop boxes for money orders. So we have so many ways for them to pay ahead of time. It's unbelievable. We made it as easy as possible to try and hit all the circumstances possible. I'm sure there's one or two out there that we can't might not be able to help, but I think if you look at our system, I think we've nailed it pretty well as far as
So this,
payment or prepayment.
we circle back to this on the go that you can just buy. Where can you buy those?
So
25.
they're at the Giant Foods and Weiss. No, not at Weiss. Let me. I'll get back to you on
And
that.
find out if they have at some of the gas stations, Royal Farms or whatever.
Well, we're looking to expand, and one of the areas we're looking to expand in is new car and truck dealerships, because that's where a lot of people will be changing their vehicle, changing their tag, and nice shiny brand new windshield that doesn't have stickies on it. So we're looking for that, and we are looking to expand in other areas. Some of that is it just depends on whether the business actually wants to do it or not, take the personnel to do it. But we are looking to do that. We have it at the MVAs, we have it at our facilities. So we're looking to expand in other areas, correct?
Okay, and just one last question about the issue with like a low battery. Is there anything on the transponder that lets people know their battery's going low? Does it beep or light up or do anything that lets people know that they may need to get a new one soon?
No, and so you might recall some of the old facilities where they had the little box and it would say, balance low or something like that. But as you go to the overhead gantries, it's impossible to have, those types of notifications. However, we are looking into getting transponders that it's sort of like the Virginia model, where if you're HOV, it has a certain button you go to or not, but the transponder would tell you if you went through and if it counted. And so we're looking at that. But again, I think one of the keys, and we try to stress this, is to check your account. If you do see you're getting eye tolls, that's a perfect indicator. Call us. We'll backdate all those. We'll make it right for you, and give you a new transponder for free. So we do ask customers to look at that stuff. But as I mentioned earlier, we're also looking to put a policy in place that if we notice that you're receiving a lot of eye tolls, to send you a message and say, hey, there's a better way you can do this. So if it's a battery, that's one thing, but if you're not installing it properly, that's another thing. There's several reasons for that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Always a pleasure, Ann.
Okay, next question, Delegate Learman.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here, Mr. Ports. So I guess my concern, I have so many concerns, 90-minute wait times and you being so blasé about that.
I'm not blasé about that. Let's be clear. We've been working with our vendor significantly, but as I mentioned, there are some things out of our control, and people want to get unemployment payments that may be higher than what they're getting paid at the call centers. I can't do anything about that. That's a personal choice.
Let's be clear then, Mr. Ports, people are not getting unemployment payments anymore, and all research indicates that in the states that continued their unemployment payments, they had higher rates of employment. So let's not
I've seen a lot of restaurants closed now that haven't been closed.
I would love to know what the failure rate is right now. What is the error rate on a regular basis? Continuing, I mean, considering that the audit that found that there were overbillings of $60,000 that were identified and returned to customers, and at other facilities, the extent of the overbilling wasn't determined. What overbilling and what other errors are happening on an ongoing basis, and how is that tracked? And are you providing regular updates to either the auditing team or to any other committees to let us know sort of how things are going to solve some of these overbilling problems?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to address that. So first of all, in that audit, you probably read that our error rate was 0.0000650 I'm going to say 2.3. I'm pretty sure. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm trying to do it by memory, but that's a pretty darn low error rate. The audit, there were some issues that we had, as I mentioned. There are electronic devices and there are mechanical devices. One of the issues that they noted, but we had already paid people, was with the treadle. So the treadle was double counting. We, through an algorithm, recognized that treadle was double counting and billing people twice. We contacted the vendor immediately. They shut down the lane. We went back and researched who was impacted incorrectly by getting double billed, and we reimbursed all those customers. And the audit said that. Okay, so we have things in place to take care of that. Now, there was an example where some of our employees knew that a problem existed. That employee retired for the prescription drug plan issue, and that one dropped through the cracks. And we admitted that to the auditors. That's called a human error. Okay, it didn't get tracked from the retired employee to other employees to take care of. However, when it's brought to our attention, we reimbursed all those people. Every single person that was impacted by any of those. Oh, let me say this: the audit said that we hadn't reimbursed some of the people for that were misbilled. Well, that exact point in time, they were correct. We hadn't yet, but we were doing the research while the audit was going on. So technically, yeah, they were right. We hadn't reimbursed them yet, but we were in the process of reimbursing them. And by the way, they've been reimbursed. So yes, we do have a lot of things in place to look at these, try and track them. And again, I'm going to say that our error rate is above 99.8%.
Great. And could you, I appreciate that. And I think the error rate was 0.00098. I guess what I would like to—
That was incorrect. That was incorrect according to the audit. If you do the math, the real math, that was another human error that was done when the person that did the math gave it to the auditors. But when I did the math, I looked at it again. I said, that doesn't look right. I did the math and it came out to 0.000065023.
Okay. My question is that error rate improving? I do not know what other transportation authority error rates are. It would be helpful to know where we rank among other transportation authorities in terms of our error rate, and to know whether that error rate is improving, or if it is staying the same. So I think that would be helpful follow-up information for the committee. I won't ask any other questions. I'll echo my concern. I represent a district that has several toll facilities. I'm guessing more toll facilities than any other district. And Probably. 2 years ago, your department promised me that 895 would never go to all electronic tolling, because it includes 2 zip codes. They're some of the poorest zip codes in the state, and many people who are unbanked and underbanked. And I find it frankly reprehensible that we are causing those people to pay more money to travel to work every day, and causing them to go into debt. I mean, I deal with calls all the time trying to help constituents who owe back pay. And so I am somebody who is opposed to all electronic billing and not having any cash option. And so I'll just want to register and echo what my friend Delegate Stewart said about his concern of as well on people who cannot pay because they're unbanked and underbanked. Thank you, Administrator Ports.
Well, hopefully, and as I mentioned before, I'm not sure who said it would never go all AET. I'm not sure about that, but as far as you're unbanked, if you are truly concerned, bring them to us, because our goal is to absolutely help them. As I mentioned before, we can give them many options, including giving them an easy pass. And if they are a commuter, they would only be paying $1.40 per transaction instead of $4. So if they're paying $4, please, you personally contact me.
I
Because
personally,
I'm not
when
contacted yet,
people
but
contact
I
me
mean-
with debts and tell me, I personally contact MDTA and try to get things changed. Unfortunately, as
Contact
a
me.
former member of the General Assembly, we don't know every need of every constituent. All I know is that there are many people out there in my district who do not have a bank account and do not have a credit card. In
Sure.
fact, I believe a few years ago, the Washington Post reported that nearly 30% of drivers with EasyPass accounts don't have automatic credit card replenishment for their accounts. So there are clearly, many people who are not using a credit card to use EasyPass. But thank you very much.
Over
I appreciate it.
70% of our transactions are done by EasyPass that do have a credit card account. And again, I'll suggest that, I know in the House of Delegates, I know you get to send out constituent letters. Maybe you could put it in your constituent letter that if they're unbanked and have a situation like that, we'd be more than happy to talk to them. So please use your constituent letter, reach out to your constituents, help us help them, and we'll be happy to work with you.
Certainly will. Thank you, Administrator
you.
Ports.
Before I recognize Delegate Terraza, Jim, could you please give us the name, the phone number, and the email address of who we should contact directly? We shouldn't all be contacting you. I'm sure there's somebody in your office who is tasked with following up on stuff like that. Do you have it readily at hand, or do you need a little bit of time?
So no, I mean, it would be Mary O'Keefe, and you may be familiar with her husband, Kevin, but no, I'll get you Mary's information. How about if we email it all to you, the phone number and the email address? We'll just get that for you so that you have it like, boom, right at hand.
Okay. Next is Delegate Terraza.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
by the way, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I'll probably put Mary on there. I'll probably put Brad, Ryan, and Anna Dove. And that way, Anna Dove and Brad Ryan are our legislative affairs folks. So we'll just make it a team effort to help you out in any way we can.
Good, thank you. Delegate Terraza.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ports, a couple questions. Just going back to the transponders, approximately how long do they last?
Approximately 10 years.
Okay.
They have lithium batteries, so they last quite a while. And look, some of them will go out earlier, some of them will last a little longer. So, but it's approximately 10 years.
And does the same issue happen when a credit card expires?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your credit card expires usually about every 3 years.
Well, no, right. I know that, but I guess.
Yeah, so we encourage people to keep up on their credit card. We also offer the ability to put a second credit card if you do have one, in case that one goes or expires, that you have another default, and then eventually check your account and redo the other account if you want, or the other credit card. So we offer quite a few different ways to help that situation.
Okay. And I guess I'm curious about the call centers. Well, actually, let me start somewhere else. How does somebody get an issue that they have, like if there's an error in their bill, how do they get that resolved?
So they can call us at the call center. They can go to one of those 12 facilities that I mentioned, the customer service centers, and get that resolved.
And is there a formal process of challenging an error that they believe is there?
I'm not sure what you mean by formal process.
So let's say they believe there's an error and they speak to somebody and somebody's, I don't know, looking into it, or it takes them multiple days to get in touch with you, or
so
you're still working within a time frame, right?
Sure. So, I mean, our customer call center, as well as especially our customer service center folks, the customer service center folks are MDTA employees. The call center is a vendor. Okay, so if you really want, I would say, the better experts, you would go to the customer service center, and we can resolve it. I don't know that there's a whole lot of issues that aren't resolved at that level, but if they aren't, then again, I'm just going to say, get a hold of me. And,
Okay.
Or once we give Kumar, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, we were freshman delegates together, so I call him Kumar a lot. But anyway, once we get the other information with Brad and Anna and Mary to you, any of us can handle. We would call that an escalation, and we'd be more than happy to handle for you.
No, and I do appreciate that. And I will say, as a person who had an error on my bill, your office was certainly, well, let me say this. I had an impossible time getting in touch with the call center, I guess it was. I was calling in, called day after day, had an impossible time doing that. I finally called my office as a constituent, and we contacted your office, and it was resolved very quickly through my office. But I don't think
Sure.
that's the appropriate way to, I mean, as a constituent going to my delegate, which was me, I don't think that's the way. Like, I don't think everybody knows to do that. I don't think everybody should know how to do that. So I guess I'm wondering why there's not an easier process. Like, there isn't an online process to challenge that. And I'm lucky I have the freedom to make call after call after call and finally give up and know to contact me, my delegate.
So,
I mean, it
so
doesn't
we
seem
do-
like that's the best way to resolve things.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And actually, quite frankly, we don't want that to be the avenue, right? We want to try and resolve it at the lowest level and as quickly as possible. But they can also submit through what we call the Contact Us line. It's on our website, and we have the web chat. So we're trying to enhance the ways that we contact the customers to resolve these issues. Look, I'm just going to say no system's perfect, but we're doing our best to try and resolve it. Again, the customer service center, I'm very disappointed where we are in the process, but I do understand the challenges that the vendor's having trying to hire people.
So, okay. So, but let me try to understand this. The call center. So if I call, first of all, I would tell you that I tried those other options and was not successful until I
Okay.
contacted my office. So, but what I want to understand is the customer service center is what you'd walk into. Is that what I'm not sure I understand the distinction you're making between those two things.
Correct. So you can call a call center.
Okay.
And
Or
call
you
the
can
call
walk
center,
in.
and that's a vendor. Okay.
Okay.
That's a vendor that we had hired. You can walk into one of our customer service centers.
Okay.
So it's a
So
call
is
center,
your-
customer service center.
Okay, is your call center, I guess I'm trying to understand why you're using an outside vendor for that rather than employees. Like, are they empowered to, because you seem to be suggesting that instead I should come in, which I don't think everybody has the flexibility to do. And if, I guess are they empowered at the call center to resolve issues?
Yes. Yes, they are.
They are. They're understaffed is what you're saying.
Correct.
But I guess why are we using it outside? If we have the need for that ongoing, why are we using an outside call center instead of?
That's the way the RFP or the procurement was set up. And it's also probably the way that most facilities operate is through a vendor. They have the software product. So we have two vendors right now. We have a front end, what we call a front end, which is Capsh. They do all the gantry type stuff. And I would say, let's just call it the toll facility issues. And then we have Transcore, who is what we call the back end. So they do the customer service center. They do all the pulling the transaction together. They do all the mailings. They do the customer contact. It's actually similar to what our other vendor did. The previous vendor actually did both of those. They did the front end and the back end. The trend has been to use different vendors for front and back end at
Okay.
this point.
Okay.
That's just a trend in the industry.
So do you know if those are full-time employees and whether they're unionized?
Are you talking about the vendor
The
or
vendors' employees,
us? Well, the employees are.
the vendors' employees.
I do not know. I do
Okay.
not know. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, we're next going to go to Delegate Otto, and then I have a number of questions, and we'll proceed to Delegate Ruth and Delegate Lehman in that order. So Delegate Otto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ports, thanks for being with us. I think you touched on that one of the last questions that you answered, Delegate Terraza. I got my bill for half of my trips across during the last session last week, and I've sent my check, and it went to Philadelphia. So I'm assuming that's where the vendor's located, and that's where the payments go.
Mm-hmm. That is where the payments go. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have employees located. They have employees located here,
okay.
and they have them in other places. I mean, sort of no different than your Comcast or Verizon stuff, where they use people in India to answer
So
your
the
question.
same vendors are doing the video tolls as well as the Easy Pass and things, because
I'm sorry, I didn't.
these
quite get
vendors
that.
are doing the same, filling the same role for the video tolls as the Easy Pass.
Yes.
I don't have an Easy Pass. Mine was a video toll. So,
Okay. Well, you should have an Easy Pass.
well, I didn't when I had to pay the $1.50 a month, because it's not, I don't cross the bridge that often, except for 90 days.
Well, that was the previous administration. This administration removed the $1.50 a month. So you get your transponder for free. It used to cost you $9 or $7 or $9. You get your transponder free, and there's no $1.50 a month. So there's no reason not to have a transponder.
So how far back is the backlog now? I think mine went through March that I got. So I got 2 more months worth of tolls.
Yeah, I think we're up to the end of July right now from last year, 2020. As I mentioned, we literally could put out all the bills right now at one time, but it would be such a burden to many people that we don't
I
do
agree
that.
with you on
So
that.
we're gonna eat that time-wise, if you will,
Yeah.
and do 1 and 1. 1 week's worth new, 1 week worth of old,
Okay.
to just slow down the process for the constituents.
Okay. So how much toll is outstanding now?
Oh, I don't know the exact number. It's a little bit difficult to figure out, quite frankly, because we have, if you look at our website, you have the difference between 2-axle, 3-axle, 4-axle, 5-axle, 6-axle, and we don't know which one you are until we actually look at the video toll.
Okay.
So it's a difficult number to figure out. But I will tell you that the backlog, we anticipate the backlog to be completed by the summer of next year, 22.
Thank you, and keep up the preservation, keep the traffic flowing. We appreciate the facilities you maintain.
Well, thank you. We're trying.
Okay, Mr. Ports, I am looking at my Easy Pass count, and to describe to you the kind of customer that I and my wife are. First of all, we have automatic recharge for our credit card. And I'm looking at an account for the period, it says activity for September 14th, 2021 through October 13th, 2021. And here's the problem. As you probably know from these reports, there are several columns. One is a transaction date and one is a posting date. So I count over 20 instances where the posting date is in September of 2021, but the transactions were November 19th of 2020, November 30th of 2020, December 6th of 2020, November, December, November, 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 November. So basically, these are transactions that took place at the end of last year that are only now being posted to our account. Now, this is important for the following reasons. Both I and my wife often on business have to get reimbursements from our employer for tolls. And, you know, only now are we going to be able to get reimbursed for a toll from back in November of 2020. Now, this is not an example of an instance where you've decided to eat it because somebody did not pay or they were unbanked or they were poor. This, because we paid this through our credit card, you know, nearly a year ago. These postings are not in chronological order, which is to say, you know, we have, well, they're just not in chronological order. I have transaction date of September of 21, then November of 20, September of 21, December of 20. This is a problem. And so I have a couple of questions. Number one, is this the kind of incompetent record keeping that might trigger a liquidated damages charge? Number two, are you aware? Well, actually, number one, were you aware of this dysfunction? Number two, is there a liquidated damage charge for this kind of reporting error? And how are you going to pursue this? So that's, you know, so right. And by the way, this is a problem every month. Every month we check our account. Every month this is the case. So it's not something that's getting better or worse. It's just been incompetently posted throughout the last, well, throughout this calendar year at least.
So let me ask you a question real quickly. Those are ICC?
No, they're not all ICC. They're, let's see, let me look at these codes.
Because if you have an Easy Pass, you're probably looking at ICC. You know,
no, I mean, it's not ICC. Some are the bridge going to the Eastern Shore when my wife is hearing cases over there. Some of them might be Baltimore's Harbor Tunnel. Yeah. They're not all ICC.
I'll have to look into that one. But I will say for the ICC, which I would assume is the majority of those. So I mentioned that we had a legacy system with Conduit, okay? And we were transitioning to TransCore. When Conduit left, there was a backlog of ICC transactions. I mentioned it a little earlier, but I was kind of brief on it. Some people may go through 3 gantries, some people may go through 7, some people may go through 15. If you go through one of our legacy systems, like the Bay Bridge or the Harbor Crossings or any of those, you go through, it's one transaction. But when you utilize the ICC, because of the number of gantries they have, one transaction may include 3 gantries, 7 gantries, 15 gantries. So what has to happen is those trips have to be pulled together for one transaction, okay? So it's multiple gantries, but one trip. And so that transition between Conduit and TransCore did impact the Easy Pass users for the ICC. And we know that frustrates customers. We get it, but the one thing that we were asking our vendor to do is not rush it and incorrectly bill people, but to make sure that they get the billing correct. And so that's why you see some of that lag. And you're right, that does go back because again, that time of the COVID hit in March. Our transition between Conduit and TransCore happened April 29th. So it was I don't like to use the term perfect storm, but you have the combination of the COVID and the transition occurring at the same time, which created a tremendous backlog. And that's what you're seeing.
When did that transition take place?
So April 29th of 2020. I'm sorry, 2021. April 29th of 21.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in the middle of COVID and transitioning all at the same time.
When is it going to be caught up?
I would say I still believe that those same transactions would be the same time as our legacy facilities, which is the summer 22. Next summer.
Next summer.
Yes, sir. Again, because we're rolling them out 1 week of transactions, 1 week worth of transactions, new, and 1 week of old, because we don't want to hit people with all of it at once.
I work for a company that processes a lot of environmental chemical data. And so I have some understanding of data sets and how these things are pulled together. I don't understand why this information should take so long to pull together, because, and again, this is not something that would be affected by employment. For the most part, I would assume the data companies that are doing this are probably not the kind of companies that experience that kind of a problem. I don't understand why the data sets aren't more rapidly pulled together and analyzed, because these are all numbers in an Excel spreadsheet or in some sort of a database similar to an Excel spreadsheet.
I agree with you. As I mentioned before, our vendors could probably do this in a month or so. Okay. However, the bill that you would receive would be pretty darn high. And I know, again, there's some folks who can afford it. Maybe you could. But there's a lot of folks who can't. So we try to meter
Jim,
that out.
We've already paid these things. I mean, we paid in real time because our account is hooked into our credit card. So it's not a question of throwing a gigantic lump payment on my doorstep. I've already paid this. I and my wife just want to get reimbursed by our employer to be able to prove that we traveled that we traveled through the Intercounty Connector or over the Bay Bridge to get to Cambridge.
Well, as I mentioned, you do pay along the way with your Easy Pass. However, that transition between Conduit, which had a backlog before they transitioned to TransCore, that backlog is what you're seeing. That's what they're trying to catch up on. They're trying to put those trips together and then meter them out approximately 1 week at a time, 1 week worth at a time.
Okay. One last thing that's not directly related to this, and it has to do with my credit card, our credit cards. What systems do you have to assure your customers that these credit transactions are private? I understand that TransCore was purchased by an out-of-country holding company, which, I'm not against that, but in this day and age especially, I want to make sure that my credit card transactions are being kept private, especially when the company itself is owned by an out-of-country entity.
Sure. So we're PCI compliant. That is, I want to say, the highest standard through your banking organizations. All the information's encrypted. You are correct that they are being sought to be bought by a company in Singapore. I'm not sure that transaction is going to go through or not. The U.S. Treasury Department gets to determine that. But I will say this: I've already spoken to the company, our vendor. When I heard that, I immediately called the president of the company, and I was like, "Wait a minute!" And I asked the same exact question you did. I said, "You are not going to let this Singapore company have any personal information, are you? And he said, absolutely not. Any deal that would occur if the US Treasury Department does approve it, because it is an out of country, but not only out of country, but China, they will not get any of the personal information. It has to stay in the United States. That's what I was assured of. But that's a very big concern. I understand of yours, and it was certainly a very big concern of mine. That's why I called the president of the company immediately.
Okay, and just to follow up, I guess given the fact that you consider these errors on my account to be as a result of a transition from one vendor to another, it's not something you're going to pursue a liquidated damage on.
So we do have liquidated damages in the RFP. We're also going to be going through the BPW with other liquidated damages according to the RFP. But I just want to be clear that what you're seeing on your account is not necessarily an error, but part of a backlog situation. So I can't hit them with liquidated damages for errors if it's not truly an error. But we will pursue liquidated damages in any case that we deserve them. Absolutely.
Okay. Next question will go to Delegate Ruth and then Delegate Lehman in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the second bite at the apple, and I'll be quick. I just wanted to follow up on Delegate Lehrman's questions. And I mean, look, I love the electronic tolling because I love being able to speed through, but I have a credit card and a bank account, and it's not a problem for me. I don't know if it's possible to put the genie back in the bottle now on bringing back some cash tolling, but I just wanted to ask if you understand that people who are the unbanked are the people who are most likely not able to take time to go to a service center to replenish their account, and maybe they can't even, you talk about how it's cheaper to pay the Easy Pass, but for many people who are low income people, they don't have that option. They might be buying diapers a few at a time, even though they're paying a premium for them, as opposed to buying them in bulk, because they just don't have the money to be able to pay stuff in advance, and they don't have the time to go to a service center to pay, and they need to just be able to pay that cash as they go through.
Yeah. So, yeah, the genie's going to can't be put back in the bottle. I would say that part. I would also question. I mean, obviously they have a car, right? If they're going through one of our toll facilities, and they have to pay their insurance. I'm just trying to figure out how they would do that, or how it's different than all the options that we offer today, including the drop box, which is 24/7. So it's as convenient as possible. The service centers, the call center, they can make a phone call. And as long as they can get us the money order or check, they can mail it to us. I mean, there's several ways that they could do it. I mean, if they mail it to us, it's the same as they have to do for their insurance company. I don't understand how they can pay their insurance if they can't pay this. It's just, I've talked to tolling facilities all across the nation. Now, most of them are on the East Coast, no question about it, but we're not hearing this problem in these other organizations. At least I have not heard a big outcry about this being such a big problem. And again, if it is a problem, we are more than happy to try and help out. I don't know how else I could try and help out, but if you can think of a way, or if anybody can think of a way, I'm more than happy to entertain it.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to take up more time, but
sure.
Thank you, Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And sorry for being on again, off again. I was in transit and I'm back home now, but really interesting discussion. And I would just like to go back briefly to Delegate Terraz's questions around call center staffing and physical locations versus customer service. So where I live, right off the ICC at the very northernmost tip of Prince George's County at the nexus of Prince George's, Howard, and Montgomery, there is an MDOT, office right off of the intercounty connector, which is, advertised. I've never walked in there myself, but it is advertised on highway signs as an easy pass location that, obviously is staffed. So, in the event that, we or anyone we know, family, constituents, have any of these kinds of issues, do we, would you have us to Delegate Terraz's point, she knew what to do when she wasn't able to solve her own problem, but she knew what to do because she's a delegate, she has the connections. Is this office that I'm thinking of and other offices like it, are those your employees? Can people, if they're not worried about walking in somewhere physically with COVID and all that, can they actually go there and talk to a human being and help have their problem solved on the spot? Would you tell people to go in if they can, if they're willing, or call? And do they call a call center or do they call these customer service centers?
Yeah, they could do both. And in your example, we have the MVA office at Gaithersburg. And we also have the MVA office at Beltsville that we have personnel in that can help your constituents. So there's two locations that are pretty, I would assume, pretty close to you. I don't know exactly where you live, obviously, but we do have options for people.
Okay, right. But since you brought up MVA, are not most of those appointments now, aren't most of those transactions now by appointment only?
Yes, correct. So you can go online or simply call us and set up an appointment. And that way we can get you in and out a lot quicker. We work very closely with Administrator Nizer, and I've been on enough CTPs and heard her spiel. The MVA through the appointment process is actually serving more people through the appointment process than they were through walk-ins. And it's because they can get you in and out very quickly, understanding what your needs are. And so that helps us also if there's an appointment. I don't know about you, I'd rather make an appointment because I do want to get in and out. I don't want to walk in and see 20 people sitting in front of me. So I think the appointment process is much more helpful and useful for your constituents.
Right, and I would agree with you on that. But back to the point of folks that don't have computer access, can people make an appointment by calling a phone number? And how easy is it to get through to that phone number, and what is it?
Sure. I don't have all the phone numbers, but they are on the website. All of our service centers, their information is on that website with the call information, or of course they can schedule the appointment. You could call our standard number of 410-537-8400, but I think it may be even better if you're just talking to the folks who are each of those service centers. And again, they're all online.
Okay, so just briefly, I get your point. I think we're all so used to, those of us who have computers are used to saying, just go on the internet, just Google it.
Yeah.
Just said, if you don't have a computer, how do you find, where do you get, what number is there? Where do you find the number? And you said, go online and get the number, and I'm not trying to, give you a hard time for that. I think we're just so used to being able to do that, and not everyone can. But my other question, going back to your staffing, at the customer service centers, earlier in your comments, you talked about those, unless I misunderstood, those folks being your agency employees. Now it sounds like maybe they're not. And whether they are or not, I would just encourage you commented that, this is standard across the industry. And that may be the case, but I think it's worth, looking at if the agency, and not just your agency, others across the state, of, the whole cost benefit question of having all of this stuff contracted out versus having a certain percentage of these folks being your employees, because, it's I can't quote statistics, but I think it's pretty clear. And we've seen this certainly more with COVID that, part of the reason that out of many reasons people are leaving jobs is they're just getting tired of, low pay, no benefits, all of those things. And state employees are going to have at least a basic benefit package versus these call center folks. So I assume this is a bottom line issue for the agency. You have these vendors that aren't paying, any benefits at all, and are paying, minimum wage probably at best for jobs that are, probably pretty thankless, pretty stressful at times. People are on edge. They probably tell these people off regularly. I would hope you would look at that. A brief response, but you could always follow up with me too.
Well, no, I'm more than happy to answer it now. I think we're doing exactly what you're asking us to do, or what you're hoping we would do. We do have a vendor that we utilize for the call center, and we have state employees that we have at our service centers. So we're doing exactly what you're asking me to do. And I would also say that the vendor, actually, the contracts that the contract that we had written up has to pay state wage rates. So they're not paying them the minimum. They're paying them state wage rates. So unless you think their state wage rates are minimum, but
are you talking about
we're doing everything you're asking us to do.
But are you talking about prevailing wage? You're not talking about prevailing wage. When you say state wage rates, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but.
Well, it's the DLLR wage rates in our system. It's higher than minimum wage, I can tell you that, and it's with fringe benefits. So I guess I'm struggling here because it sounds like I said, we're doing exactly what you'd like us to do, and I don't know how else to answer it.
Well, I suppose, let me see if I can help here, Delegate Lehman. Perhaps, Jim, if you could get with the communicate to the committee staff what those provisions are in the contract and how they work out, that would be helpful for us. Go ahead, Mary.
That's sure. Fair enough.
Mary, go ahead.
Yeah. My point is just that, I think with what we've seen, there is no doubt what you said earlier is true, that there are employees, and it's particular to some industries, obviously much more than others, the hospitality industry being number one. But I think, customer service type jobs like the ones we're talking about with relatively low pay, in a lot of cases, a fair amount of stress. And of course, the fewer employees you have, the more stressful it becomes, right? Because the volume on a per employee basis, goes up. There's always hundreds of people in the queue, and it becomes a circular situation. Is it in fact more cost efficient to contract all or most of this out when there's all that turnover, you're chronically understaffed, your customers, being the tax-paying residents of the state of Maryland, are constantly, excuse my language, pissed off because they're not getting, I think that's putting it mildly. I mean, it was hard to even follow Chairman Barvey's specific example of what, the problems he and his wife are experiencing, because I don't have a firsthand, myself account like he does. But, clearly you are experiencing, really serious problems with serious backlog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, as I mentioned, they originally had 160 employees. That was ramped up from their original estimate of about 100 employees. We knew we had a backlog, and we asked them to bring more employees on. As I mentioned, employees left for various reasons. I mean, quite frankly, this state employment, we have a lot of vacancies. Some people would say the same reasons that you mentioned. So you're right. I mean, it's a challenge all the way around. I'm not going to deny that. Whether you're using a vendor or state employees, it's a challenge right now.
Okay, and my final comment would be, I would just urge the agency to look to look a little more creatively about these staffing situations without the first or only focus being the bottom line, because in the end, a lot of times that ends up being way more costly. And that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ports, I have another question here. I represent District 17, which is right next to I-270. And as you know, there's a P3 arrangement for tolling certain lanes of I-270. So my question is this company going to inherit the tolling responsibilities, or are you going to bid that out?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember right now. The back office, I believe the back office only is going to be with the P3 at this point. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what? Let me let Will Pines answer this, because he's our operations guy, and he's, I guess I would say, more in the weeds than I am on this one.
Sure. Will, welcome to the committee.
Yeah, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Will Pines, and I'm Chief Operating Officer for the Maryland Transportation Authority. So thank you for your question. The ops lane project, the way the contract is structured, the back office would continue to be managed by the MDTA. So our TransCore contractor, it's anticipated that we in the future would seek some kind of modification to that contract to deal with the back office component of that. What we call the lane side, or what currently CAPS is managing, it's for the P3 concessionaire to determine exactly how they're going to structure the lane side, including them performing that themselves as an option.
So let me see if I understand the distinction between back office and lane side. The lane side functions would literally be the tolling functions, detecting, license plates or easy pass transponders and that sort of thing. The back office, I would assume, would be the processing of bills and the billing of customers. Is that roughly correct?
That is roughly
exactly correct.
Yeah. Beyond the equipment in the lanes to decide if it's an easy pass transaction or video toll, there is the formation of the trips, like what Jim had talked about, where they have to actually bundle the gantries and decide, okay, this is one trip that goes to the back office for processing. So there's a little more work in forming what the data is, as you mentioned earlier, the data of the actual transaction. But then once that's formed, it gets sent to the back office for processing. Since
you're the chief operating officer, and since let me ask to you the question that I put to Jim Ports, and that is this data that you're getting, that's legacy data from the prior contractor. Am I wrong? I mean, isn't this just data on an Excel spreadsheet or data in a database of some sort? I mean, I don't fundamentally understand why it takes so long to take information that has already been tabulated and put into a data matrix. I don't understand why it should take so long to report and transcribe this.
So I think where the issue is, or the misunderstanding is that previously, you had described it as you've already been billed for the transaction to your credit card.
Right.
We cannot bill you until you actually have that transaction posted to your account. So when you're seeing those transactions showing up on your statement, that is actually the point where it was incurred on your credit card as well. So the point of when Jim mentioned earlier about not having all of them post at one time, that's because they don't actually, if we did what you're suggesting, it would mean all of them would post to your credit card at that one time. So yes, we could, it is, as you say, it's a database, and we could dump them all at once, but that statement is a reflection of what actually posted to your credit card.
So you're basically saying that for this November 19, 2020 transaction date that was posted on September 20th of 21, you're saying our credit card was, our account was charged at that point?
I'm saying the date when it's posted on,
as of the posting date.
That's correct. Not the November date that you reference. That's when your trip actually was incurred. When it was posted to your credit card was the posting date on the statement. So if we were to bundle them all together and post them all at once, you could probably imagine your bill would be sizable. And many customers would complain about that.
So you're spreading out these legacy transactions between now and the summer of 22. Is that what I heard Mr. Port say?
That is correct, Chairman.
Okay, I think I have a question from Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much. Am I still muted or not? Okay.
No, you're good. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Thank you. I'm glad that we transitioned a little bit because I have a question. I have a couple questions about the proposed toll facilities and the P3 and all of that operation. Would they be tolled the same way as the other tolls in the state? If the concessionaire is doing it, would they be required to use Easy Pass the way the state does, or could they decide not to have Easy Pass or do something else?
We'll take it.
I'll try to tackle this one again. So as I mentioned, the tolling experience for the customer's perspective will be similar to today because of the fact that the back office is going to be the same vendor. And that's the exact reason why we're doing that. We didn't want to have one experience for a customer when they're driving on the ICC and a separate one when they're driving in the ops lanes. Now, when you say, is it the only tolling option? That first of all, the toll rates and the toll rate setting process is still underway. And so I don't want to speculate on exactly what the outcome of the specific toll rates will be, but the managed lanes are anticipated to have free travel for HOV and buses and motorcycles. So there will be some differences for customers, that may travel having an HOV experience, like having a transponder that can designate the type. The specifics on that are not certain yet, and that's something that would be worked out with the concessionaire. But in terms of how the customer would receive their statements, video tolling, pay by plate, the types of options that are there, they will be a similar experience because they're running through the same back office.
Okay, so they would need to get a different transponder just for this.
No, that's correct, with the exception possibly of how the HOV will be managed.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? I mean, I presume that the transponder that my wife and I have on our cars would work on I-270, right?
It will. What is still under evaluation development with the in the pre-development phase is how specifically to handle HOV. So your transponder, if you're traveling yourself in the managed lanes, that would operate exactly the same way. But if you, the current toll rate structure is HOV3. So if you, your wife, and some friends went to dinner and you wanted to travel and leverage the HOV option, there may be some differences in structure how the transponders used, but that's still in development, and I don't want to speculate on exactly how that's going to be resolved.
Okay. Okay.
Well, and let me just add just a little bit there. As a matter of fact, you may be familiar with Virginia's. Virginia has a transponder that you can flip to HOV or
No,
vice versa.
Well,
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, they have it. It's called a flex pass. So they allow you to flip it back and forth from HOV to regular standard rates. So that's, as Will said, that's in the works, but that is probably one of the options. I mean, there are a few other nuances. Virginia doesn't allow trucks on some of their lanes. So, there are other nuances that we got to work through also. So we'll get through that.
Okay. Any further questions from the committee? Okay, well, we are 4 minutes away from 3 o'clock, which is when we were going to stop, I believe. So, Mr. Ports, I'd like to thank you and your staff for being here and presenting to us. I mean, I think there were a lot of, my committee, as you know, had a lot of hard questions. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of the members of my committee are still not willing to support the idea of eliminating cash payments for people who may not be as savvy or may not have banking resources. But regardless, as I said, there's some information I'd like you to get to us. Number one, the contact information. Number two, the DLS labor standards that you referred to. And I'm forgetting something else, perhaps, but I'm sure I'll remember and communicate that to you as well. So those are your two homework assignments between now and the beginning of session. And it
was a DLLR rate.
What did I say?
DLS. That's your world. This is mine.
Okay. DLR. Yeah. We'd like to know what those standards are and what, in terms of wages and benefit standards that are built into the contract.
Sure.
One last thing, it just occurred to me. How long is this? What's the duration of this contract and what are the provisions for it being reinstated? How does that work with the contract?
So, like I said before, it was a 15-year contract previous. This is a 10-year contract. I'm trying to think of the modifications. So it's 6-year. It's technically a 6-year contract with 4 years of options.
Right.
So a 10-year contract.
That's fairly standard. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. There don't appear to be any more questions. So you escaped from my committee relatively unscathed. No, pretty scathed. Actually, pretty scathed, but but still living.
Nah,
so.
It's all. You know what, Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to be able to answer some questions. These questions are important from a constituent standpoint. I understand, like I said, you, I, and Ann came in together.
Yeah.
As freshman delegates, I understand the process. I know what you're going through. I want to help you. And I'm more than happy to come and talk to your subcommittee members, your committee members, anytime and answer any questions they may have.
Okay, well, we may have come in together, but Ann is the one who had to really put up with you because you were both on Ways and Means.
That is true. But she's got a good Marine husband. So, and I'm a Marine, her husband's a Marine. So we got along great.
Okay, that's true.
Thank you.
All right, so unless there's anything else, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Jim and your team for answering our questions. Until the next time, see you around. Take care.
See ya.